George Clooney, who's still coasting on his early fame, has managed to show us more unfiltered, out-of-touch nonsense in a few days than most celebrities do in a lifetime. Clooney has taken a bold stand, and by that, I mean he's out here practically blaming the general public for not bowing down and worshipping the Hollywood elite like we're supposed to. This is a guy who seems to think his own opinions and wisdom matter way more than anyone else's, and he's made it clear he won't be accepting any criticism from people who don't understand the value he brings to society. But it's not just Clooney. This past week, Hollywood's overblown bubble finally started deflating, and boy, it was long overdue. We've got all kinds of actors, directors, and producers you'd think were made of stronger stuff, just melting down in front of everyone. They're getting tangled up in arguments with fans, losing their cool, and spiraling into this bizarre blame game. You look at the top-tier A-listers, actors we once thought had it all together, getting more out of touch by the day. Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, he's already had his turn, and now it's George Clooney and Julia Roberts who are showing just how far down the rabbit hole they've fallen. Now, Hollywood's always been a bit of a circus, but for Clooney to still think he's better than everyone else is truly delusional. The film industry has been a mess for well over a decade, but Clooney seems to think it's somehow still on top, and that we're all desperately clinging to whatever wisdom he and his celebrity pals can dish out. It's beyond laughable. Honestly, if Hollywood ever had a chance to redeem itself, it would be in the hands of independent creators. Real people making real content, unlike these Hollywood elites who think they're untouchable. But I digress. Let's get back to Clooney's meltdown. Clooney is having a real crisis here, folks. You might think his acting is impressive, but the way he talks down to the public is just embarrassing. This guy doesn't know the first thing about what life is like for the average person. He goes on to tell us that we're below him because we don't live in his Hollywood bubble. Can you imagine? George Clooney actually thinks that, because he's famous, his opinions should matter more than anyone else's. He's claiming we're somehow in the dark about reality, and that he and his Hollywood buddies are the ones with the true vision. But here's the kicker. He's got the nerve to suggest that we need celebrities to tell us what to think, because apparently our neighbors, families, and friends are just too small-minded to know the truth. The sheer arrogance here is mind-boggling. In a recent statement, Clooney made it painfully clear how he sees the world. He rambled on about how he, as a celebrity, has a voice that matters more than everyone else's. Apparently, he thinks he's better equipped to understand the complexities of life because he's famous and rich, and he genuinely believes we're all somehow clueless without his guidance. He's seriously convinced that without these Hollywood stars feeding us their enlightened views, we'd all be wandering aimlessly. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, he brings up Julia Roberts, saying she was unfairly criticized by the public. Clooney seems to think that because she's his friend and fellow actor, she's automatically above any criticism. In his mind, anyone who has money and fame has an inherent wisdom the rest of us could never understand. Let me tell you, George Clooney is so out of touch, he might as well be living on another planet. This guy genuinely believes that celebrities hold some kind of moral high ground because they're able to scream their opinions to millions. Never mind the fact that they're millionaires living in luxury while the average person is struggling to get by. To Clooney, the everyday person is just too limited in perspective to have opinions worth listening to, and he wraps this all up by saying the world needs people like him, people with big platforms and bank accounts to guide society to a better place. The ego here is unbelievable. If you need more proof that Hollywood's rotting from the inside, just look at George Clooney right now. The guy can't handle criticism, so he lashes out at the public and accuses anyone with a differing view of being ignorant. He's acting like Hollywood's untouchable, that it's somehow up to him and his celebrity pals to lead the rest of us who live regular lives. The truth? Hollywood stars like Clooney are so out of touch with the people who actually watch their movies that it's laughable. They've built themselves a castle on a pile of cash, and now they're angry we're not standing outside in awe. So here we are, watching George Clooney's reputation slowly unravel, and he can't seem to understand why people are pushing back against him. If there was any question that celebrities live in their own world, separate from reality, Clooney has confirmed it for us, and he's not alone. Julia Roberts, Jimmy Kimmel, the whole Hollywood crew, they're all starting to show how little respect they have for the public. It's all about their status, their importance, and the voices they think they have. They're angry We don't see them as indispensable oracles of truth and wisdom, and they'll keep blaming us, the viewers, as long as they can. It's clear Hollywood has turned into a platform for the self-obsessed, and George Clooney is leading the charge. He's dug himself into a hole he can't get out of, and the fans aren't on his side anymore. For a guy who built his career off the public's admiration, it's rich that he's now condemning them for thinking for themselves, and the backlash he's received recently. Oh, he's not taking it lightly at all. In fact, he's spiraling, lashing out at the fans he used to charm so effortlessly, and all because he can't stomach the idea that people just don't worship him like they used to. But let's really dig into Clooney's little speech. This isn't just a matter of one out-of-touch actor having a bad day. This is George going on a full-blown rant, dragging his entire Hollywood clique with him, and it wasn't a flattering look, to say the least. Clooney genuinely believes that, because of his status, his voice should be treated like some rare artifact that the public just can't live without. To quote the man himself, he calls himself a voice, a title he apparently thinks comes with the birthright to school the rest of us on what is right and what is wrong. Now, here's where it gets hilariously insulting. Clooney claims that the public, you, me, everyone outside his Beverly Hills bubble, has a warped view of the world just because we don't live in multi-million-dollar mansions or get paid millions to act for a few hours a day. To him, we need to do better and stop being so weak as to question the godlike wisdom of Hollywood elites like himself, Julia Roberts, and Jimmy Kimmel. That's right, we're apparently all just too simple-minded to understand the deep philosophical insights that only celebrities like him can provide. What's even more absurd, Clooney didn't just put himself on this golden pedestal. He outright called out his neighbors and the general public for not understanding the importance of celebrity truth. He genuinely seems to think that instead of relying on, the people we actually know and trust, we should be looking to him, Julia Roberts, and other A-listers for guidance in our day-to-day lives. Because, of course, nothing says trustworthy like people who live their entire lives behind gated mansions, surrounded by yes-men, completely removed from the real world. And the irony, Clooney seems to be missing it entirely. He's not some revolutionary with the courage to stand up for the little guy. He's a multi-millionaire trying to tell regular folks that they need him, not the other way around. The man actually suggested that the general public is divided because we don't properly value the voices of wealthy celebrities. He went on to say that people in his position are crucial for the greater good, as if the planet would somehow spin off its axis without their takes on the world. Oh, please. Now, remember how he dragged Julia Roberts into this. According to Clooney, she's another victim of unfair criticism from the public. Apparently, just because we don't put her on the same pedestal he does, we're all somehow missing the bigger picture. And let's be real, this isn't about the greater good or the truth. It's about celebrities wanting to keep their ego stroked and their influence intact, despite the fact that their brand of wisdom is about as useful as a Hollywood award show in the middle of a crisis. The real punchline, though, Clooney ended his bizarre rant by doubling down. He declared that his status is another's treasure and implied that his fame somehow grants him the right to tell us all how we should think, feel, and live. He doesn't want to hear our criticism. No, he's above all that. Instead, he insists that we should just sit back, listen, and be grateful for the enlightenment that only he and his celebrity friends can provide. The entitlement is honestly staggering. Here's a man who's not just out of touch with reality. He's buried so deep in his Hollywood bubble that he genuinely seems to believe that his opinions hold more value than those of the people actually living in the real world. And while he sits there, clutching his awards and drowning in his millions, he can't seem to fathom why people might be a little sick and tired of being lectured by someone who clearly has no idea what real life looks like. So, what do you guys think? Is George Clooney completely off his rocker? Or do you actually think he's got a point buried somewhere in that mess of an argument? Let's hear it, because something tells me Clooney could use a serious reality check right about now.